Hi, grade 9. So today we're doing the chapter 5 review, which is in preparation for your test, which is tomorrow at 10:30 to 12:30. There's a handout on Teams that you should print and fill in as you watch this video. So at the top of your handout there, it says the two forms of the equation of a line. So the two forms that we talked about in this chapter were slope y-intercept form. And sloped y-intercept form looks like y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. If you don't know what that means, you need to send me a message immediately and we need to talk, because then you are going to fail this test. All right? So it's very important that you know what that means. Okay, moving on. Standard form looks like ax plus by plus c equals 0, where a, b, and c are numbers. Okay, the next thing is lesson 5.1. We talked about slope and y-intercept. So we have a chart here which has an equation and then slope and then y-intercept. So the first equation is y equals negative 1/2 x plus 5. So I'm just going to write slope y-intercept form down here. Y equals mx plus b. So m and b are slope and y-intercept. M is slope and b is y-intercept. All right, so you need to look in your equation. The number that is in front of the x is the slope, and the number that's by itself is the y-intercept. All right, so in this situation here, the number that's in front of the x is negative 1/2. And the y-intercept, which is the number by itself, is 5. All right, the next equation, y equals 2x minus 3. The number that's attached to the x is 2, so that's our slope. And the number that's by itself is negative 3. Don't forget about that negative sign. The next equation is x equals 3. Now this one's a little bit different. So x equals 3 means that no matter what the y value is, x is always 3. So this is just going to be a vertical line on your graph. So the slope is actually going to be undefined. It's not going to be 0, because when we put it into our slope equation, we'll end up with y2 minus y1, so whatever y is, so say 5 minus 3, over x2 minus x1, and they're both going to be the same. They're both going to be 3, because no matter where on this line, x equals 3. So then you're going to have 3 minus 3, which is going to end up being 2 over 0. If you try to punch that into your calculator, it's going to say error, or undefined, or math error, or something like that, because you can't divide something by 0, which means that that slope is undefined. All right? And the y-intercept, well, this line is vertical. It's always going to hit 3 on the x-axis, so it's not going to have a y-intercept. It's not going to cross the y-axis anywhere. All right. The next one is y equals 4. So this is the opposite of the last one, and now this line is running horizontally. So everywhere on this line, y is 4. So this time my slope is going to be 0, because now the top of this equation is going to be 0 instead of the bottom. The top is allowed to be 0, because 0 divided by anything is still 0, right? It's when the bottom is 0 that it's a problem. So the slope is 0, and the y-intercept, well, y is always 4, so it's going to cross the y-axis at 4. All right, and then the last one is 3x plus 2y plus 24 equals 0. Well, this one is not in slope y-intercept form, so we need to get it there first. So I need to move everything around. I'm just going to start a new page. 3x plus 2y plus 24 equals 0. So I want to get y by itself. So in order to do that, I'm going to get rid of this 3x by taking it away from both sides, and get rid of this 24 by taking it away from both sides. So now I have 2y equals negative 3x minus 24. Now to get that y by itself, I need to divide both sides by 2. So now I have y equals negative 3 over 2x minus 24 over 2, which is 12. Now it looks like slope y-intercept form, right? Y equals mx plus b. So the slope is negative 3 over 2, and the y-intercept is negative 12. All right, the next thing under the chart says identify the slopes of the following lines as rising or falling and a steep or gentle. So we're going to look at the slope. We're going to check if it's positive or negative. If it's positive, it's rising. If it's negative, it's falling. And then we're going to say, is it a small number, like a half? Is it less than 1? That's going to be a gentle rise. If it's like 5, that's steep. That's a bigger number. That's going to rise quickly. So 1/2 x minus 4. So you need to think of slope as rise over run, right? That's what we learned right at the beginning. So if your slope is 1/2, that's rise 1, run 2. So that means if we go up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, that's a gentle rise. It is rising, so rising, and it's rising gently. Y equals 5x plus 2. So it's a positive slope, so that means it's rising. And now remember, a whole number as a fraction is 5/1. So that means we're rising 5 and running 1. So now we're going up 5/1, up 5/1. That's very steep. Okay? So that is rise and it's steep. Y equals negative 3x minus 3. Now, rise over 1 again, negative 3/1 equals rise over run. So we're rising negative 3, so we're actually falling negative 3. Down 3/1, down 3/1. We're falling, and that's steep. And then y equals negative 3/2x plus 7. So again, rise over run, down 3/2, down 3/2. That's still going to be pretty steep, and it's falling. All right, next page. Find the slope and y-intercept of a line in standard form. So if I have 2x plus 4y minus 6 equals 0, I need to rearrange this so that it's in slope y-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, so that I can find the slope and the y-intercept. So I need to get y by itself over here on one side of the equation. So in order to do that, I need to get rid of this 2x and this 6 using opposite operations. So this is a positive 2x, so I'm going to subtract it from both sides. This is a negative 6, so the opposite operation would be to add it to both sides. So now I'll have 4y equals negative 2x plus 6. Now in order to get rid of this 4, I need to divide both sides by 4. These 4's will cancel out. I'll be left with y equals negative 2/4x plus 6/4. Equals negative 2/4 is the same as negative 1/2 x, and 6/4 can be reduced to 3/2. Now it's in y equals mx plus b form. M, the slope, is negative 1/2, and b, the y-intercept, is 3/2, or that's the same as 1.5. All right? 5.3, the slope formula, which you'll need to know to calculate slope on the test, is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's the formula. And just remember, that's when you have 2 points, so say 5, 2, and 3, 1. And then we label those points, x1, y1, x2, y2. It's just the first x and the second x and the first y and the second y. Put those into this equation, and that will give us the slope of that line. What does collinear mean? Collinear means all points given are on the same line. All points given are on the same line. And how do you know if they're collinear? How do you know? You need to find the slopes between each pair of points. If the slopes are equal, they are collinear. All right, 5.4, finding equations of lines. So given 2 points, find the equation. First, you would find the slope. That's the blank there. Insert the slope into the equation for m, then use a coordinate, so one of the 2 points, plug it in for x and y, and solve for b. So, for example, find the equation of the line that passes through these points, 5, 3, and -2, -1. All right, so I'm going to label these points as x1, y1, x2, y2, and then plug them into the slope equation. So m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 equals -1 minus 3 over -2 minus 5. -1 minus 3 is -4, -2 minus 5 is -7. -4 over -7 is the same as +4 over +7 because those negatives cancel out. So far, I have y equals 4 over 7x plus b because I've calculated m. Now I need to calculate b. I have these 2 points. I can choose either one of them to help me calculate b. So I'm going to choose 5, 3 and plug it into this equation for x and y. So y is 3, so 3 equals 4 over 7 times x, which is 5, plus b. 3 equals 4 times 5 is 20 over 7 plus b. Now I'm going to subtract 20 over 7 from both sides. And that leaves me with 3 minus 20 over 7 equals b. I need a common denominator, so 3 with a denominator of 7 would be 21 over 7, right? Because 21 divided by 7 equals 3. Minus 20 over 7 equals b. 21 minus 20 is 1/7 equals b. Okay, so now I have m equals 4/7 and b equals 1/7. So in my equation, y equals mx plus b, I'll have y equals 4 over 7x plus 1 over 7, and that's my equation. And I figured that out just using these 2 points that they gave me. If a question says this point passes through the y-intercept of 3, what is that point as a coordinate? So that would be 0, 3. Because on my graph, my y-axis, when I have a point at 3 on my y-axis, that's 0 on the x-axis, right? I haven't gone this way or that way. So I'm at 0 here. So that's why it's 0, 3. All right. The next question. Does the point 2, -6 lie on the line y equals 2x plus 3? How can I figure that out? Well, if I plug this point in for x and y, and the left side equals the right side, then I know that it does lie on this line. So then if it works, if the equation works, yes, it's on this line. If the equation doesn't work and the 2 sides don't equal each other, then it's not on this line. So remember that a coordinate is x comma y. So y is -6 and x is 2. I'm going to plug that in. -6 equals 2 times 2 plus 3. -6 equals 4 plus 3. -6 equals 7. No, -6 does not equal 7. So the left side does not equal the right side. So, therefore, this point does not lie on this line. All right, and then lesson 5.5, we learned that parallel lines, that's the symbol for parallel lines, have the same slope, and perpendicular lines have slopes that are negative reciprocals. So, if y equals 3 over 2x plus 3 is parallel to y equals blank x minus 7, then what is the slope of this second line? They're parallel. They will have the same slope, so the slope will be 3 over 2. Y equals 1/2 x plus 1 is perpendicular to this line, then what is the slope? Y equals blank x minus 4. Perpendicular means their slopes are the negative reciprocals. So the negative reciprocal of 1/2, you flip it over, so now it's 2 over 1, and you make it negative. So that's -2. So the slope of this line would be -2. All right, so that's what you need to know for the test. Your homework questions that you need to do are page 309, number 1 to 15. If you do those questions, you should be ready for the test. Let me know if you have any questions so I can help you before the test so that you can do well on the test. All right, have a good day.